Hey everybody, Larry Lawton here. I have a good video for you today. I studied the case of Clayton County, Georgia's sheriff being sentenced to prison. His name is Victor Hill, and we're going to get into that case here in 1 minute. Before I get started, please have you check us out on YouTube member programs, Discord, Patreon. Please check out merch out. Check my book out, Gangster Redemption. You're going to see what this Victor Hill, this Sheriff Hill, is going to go through. Please check our cigars out. They're doing great. We love them. People love them. And they're doing very well. Go on our website for all that. There's discount codes. There's a whole bunch of stuff right there. Okay, let's get into this case. Okay, let me give you a little bit backdrop of the case, and let me give you the size and scope of Georgia to begin with. Okay, Georgia is a state above where I am right here in Florida. The county we're talking about is Clayton County, Georgia. Now, Georgia, after doing some research, is a pretty tough state to analyze, and I'll tell you why. There's 159 counties in Georgia. 159 counties. To put that in perspective, the state of Florida, which is double the size of Georgia, has 67 counties. In fact, the county we're talking about here, Clayton County, is just below Atlanta, the city of Atlanta. And actually, its number one thing it's known for is it's where Hartford-Jackson International Airport, the busiest passenger airport in the world, is there. You know, people just know it as ATL or Atlanta Airport, and it's in the county of Clayton County. It is the biggest employer of people, period, in the state of Georgia. That's pretty wild. The makeup of the county, I'm going to give you it now, is 69.4% black, 13.3% Hispanic, and 9.1% white. That is the rough makeup of Clayton County, Georgia. The population is 297,000 people, give or take. That was 2021. Just to put it in perspective, the counties that are bigger are all up north of that, and it's Fulton County, which is Atlanta, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, and DeKalb County. And the most populous county in the state of Georgia is Fulton County, almost 1.1 million people. Then Gwinnett with 958,000 and 760,000 with Cobb County. And I'm looking at 758,000 for DeKalb. To give you perspective, the county we're talking about right now is 297,000. Even to put it in more perspective, I live in a county in Florida, in Central Florida. It's called Brevard County, and is where the Space Coast is, where the Space Center is. And we have approximately 550,000 people in this county alone. Now, we all know sheriffs are elected. They're elected officials. Well, this sheriff was charged in October with violation of civil rights of inmates, and this is why I picked up on this, by putting them in what they call the restraint chair and leaving them there for up to 6 hours for no reason. Now, this man went to trial. He lost trial he lost trial 4 months ago. He was sentenced, listen to this, this is a sheriff of a county in Georgia. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison, 6 years of probation, supervised release, and that was 1 year for every person that he abused, that he was convicted of abusing. Now, here is my take on the whole case. Obviously, I'm glad this came to light, and nobody deserves to be put in that restraint chair. Let me explain the restraint chair to begin with. First of all, this restraint chair is where, in our own county, we had a person die in it. It is one of the most brutal things you could do to a person, and I'll tell you why. I was what they call four-pointed. It's a kind of restraint. In the federal system, they didn't have, at least at the prisons I was at, they didn't have the restraint chair. They do have it. They had what they put you on a slab or a bed, no mattress or anything like that, and they four-point you. They literally take handcuffs or straps there, and they put you in the thing, and you are buck naked, and you are four-pointed. That's when I was abused. The restraint chair is no joke and probably just as bad. What it is a chair you sit in, and they take your hands, they strap you in a belly around the waist, they strap your legs to the things, Some of them I think was strapped to the head. You cannot move. Now, if you've never been incarcerated, which I hope you haven't, or if you've never been experienced something like this, I'm telling you, I'm getting the goosebumps, people. It's that bad for me. This sheriff who did this to people, now, he was convicted in his own county. Now, he was a very popular sheriff, too. It reminded me of Joe Arpaio, who was eventually convicted by the feds himself, ended up getting pardoned by President Trump. But it reminded me of that, a very popular sheriff. But what happens with those popular sheriffs is they think that they could flout the law. Obviously, you do have civil rights. Everybody has civil rights. Even prisoners have civil rights. Not many, but they do. But the civil rights violation he was put into, it's some serious stuff. You are talking about, how do I think? The FBI came in and did this whole investigation on this case, and the U.S. attorney asked for 4 years incarceration. The judge ended up giving the person 18 months. Of course, the defense wanted probation. I don't get that. Now, you violated the civil rights of 6 people. Very rare do you see this happen, that an official in the feds follow through with it. I'm glad they did. But this sheriff, this is what the judge said. Now, I look into these cases pretty good, you know that. They mean something to me. These are the kind of cases that are, we have to stop this kind of abuse. When we can't trust law enforcement to do the right thing, that's a sad day. Now, you all know that I stick up for good law enforcement and will also speak out against bad law enforcement. Now, I am not the all-judger, but I am one who looks at the law, looks at how they handle things, looks what the criminal justice system is. See, in this case, and like a lot of sheriffs, they have control over the jail. I am not a believer in that. In fact, Orange County, which is Orlando, they gave control. The sheriff there did not want the jail under his control, as he should. You know, when you have a county makeup and you as a taxpayer, you don't want one person to have all of this control over everybody. Here's for a number of reasons. One, they can manipulate numbers anytime they want. If they want to make the jail population high to get more funding, they just tell their deputies to arrest every minor case, arrest them, bring them to the jail, process them. If they want to say they're doing good in crime fighting and there's low jail numbers, they don't arrest for stuff like that, and all of a sudden the jail numbers go low and people think they're doing good. Now, I think most counties, in all counties, should have what they call a jail administrator who works for the county commission. That would take a lot of power away from the sheriff to do that. It would give control over the jail to the people who elect these county officials who would, the county commission would then hire a jail administrator. He would answer the county commission. And if you as a citizen had somebody in there and you had some problems or control, you can go to your elected official and then talk to him. In the case of a sheriff having control over that, it's harder to get to one person who has a big control, especially when they get power. Obviously, this man did not care one bit about the civil rights of people. It is illegal to put somebody in that restraint chair, obviously without due process and for no reason. The only reason in Georgia, in looking it up, is if you are a threat to an officer, or you're a threat to yourself, or you're a threat to another inmate. The 6 people that he put in this chair had no threat. In fact, they were pre-released. They were not pre-released, they were pre-trial. That means they were arrested. They're technically still innocent. And that's one of my biggest flaws with jails. They treat people who are arrested as if they're convicted already. And they're not convicted. That is the biggest thing. Well, here is what will happen with this young man. This guy's not young. He's younger than me, obviously. But this sheriff is going to self-report to he asked for a low security, safe prison for his safety. Now, let's face it, people. he's going to what they call a camp. He's not going to go to a real prison like I went to. He's going to go to a facility that doesn't have violent offenders. It has camp inmates, we call them. He's only got an 18-month sentence, so he does get off approximately 2 months out of the year, so he might get off 3 months. So out of 18 months, he'll do about 15 months if he stays out of trouble, and I don't assume him getting in trouble. The part of the sentence that I think was pretty telling was the judge admonished him and says, your love for law enforcement was outweighed by your arrogance and your disregard for the law. Now, the judge also sentenced this man to, he could never work in law enforcement at all under proxy, under even as a consultant. Not only can he not hold a certification of law enforcement, he can't even work as a consultant like I sometimes do with police departments. I can do that. He can't now. So that was taken away from him, which when judges take away your livelihood, you know how serious it was. I think this judge was conflicted. This man's a law enforcement official. He had some support. Supposedly he did good things in the community. But what the judge was really, I guess, perturbed, you could probably call it irked or probably pissed about, and this is a female judge, was his lack of remorse. You know, normally when you get arrested, you end up getting trial or convicted, and obviously you're convicted by your peers. You say, hey, listen, even if I don't believe I did wrong, I feel bad, I shouldn't ding like that, I hate the perception this gives to the community. This man had the lack of remorse, period, the lack of remorse, and that is telling in and of itself. So, you know, he's going to appeal. He's got, in the federal system, and I know this, in the federal system, after you get convicted and sentenced, your appeal goes in. In most states, once you're sentenced, once you're convicted, you know, guilty, you can file your appeal. In the federal system, you have to wait until your sentence happens. So you're guilty, then you can work on your appeal, and then when your sentence happens, you have 10 days to appeal your case. Now, in this case, first of all, here's how the feds work. The federal government goes, they don't arrest you until they have their case pretty much solid. And then they arrest you, and that's why their conviction rate is over 96%. Yes, there's a little tell to that because they'll use rats and they'll get convictions out of people taking pleas. But for the most part, they're, I don't want to say almost unwinnable because there is cases that happens, and usually it's on voir dire, which is jury picking and stuff of that nature, or something wrong with the jury. Very rarely do you get to retry the case. It's not like you can go through things and say, you could say my lawyer didn't do something. Now that lawyer then, that's called what, in the federal system, it's called a 2255 ineffective assistance of counsel. Now it happens. It happens. Now this guy, though, since his own lawyer is putting in for the appeal, he's not going to say he was wrong. So this guy had his day in court. He was found guilty. He got a very, I'm going to say, fair sentence. This all happened in 2019 and 2020, the cases that he had, the abuses. And, you know, when you're dealing with the U.S. attorney, they're a little bit of a different animal. They have the resources, and they have the FBI, and they have a lot going on. But why I was very pissed about this case, and not pissed, I mean, listen, I'm past pissed anymore. I want to see justice for everybody. Listen, if you commit crimes, you deserve to go to jail. If it's a jailable offense. Obviously, I don't think it's a jail. This is a jailable offense because it's such an egregious thing. It's funny because this sheriff, and they're doing a special election next week. It's Saturday. Tuesday, there's a special election for a new sheriff of Clayton County, Georgia. The undersheriff in this case is running. He's only got 12 years on the job. The other 4 candidates have between 24 and 38 years. This sheriff, this undersheriff, I don't know how he became undersheriff. In 2012, he was convicted of family violence and sentenced to 12 months probation. Then he gets a job. That's all he's in law enforcement, 12 years. So after that, he gets hired by this sheriff. So, I mean, it's kind of whacked, if you ask me, how they're running things in this Clayton County. And I don't know how much corruption is going on at the airport, since it's the biggest employer of people. It is what that county is known for. Obviously, it's the busiest airport in the world. So they must have some kind of tax base from that and from the hotels and everything else that goes around something like that to bring in money. Now, in Georgia, this is in Georgia, with 159 counties, you have a lot of sheriffs. Sheriffs are elected in counties. Now you have cities within the counties, they can hire their own police chief. Obviously, somebody like you have Fulton County, Georgia, which is Atlanta. The city of Atlanta has its own police department. It's probably bigger than the sheriff in that county because he has more police officers, more budget, and more responsibility. Now you take someone in this county I'm in here, the sheriff is going to be the biggest person. He has the biggest department and stuff of that nature. So I get all that. And a lot of counties in Florida are like that because there's only 67 counties, and the population of Florida at last count is about 22 million people. The population of Georgia is approximately 10 million, maybe a little more. So put it this way, Florida is double the size. Even in landmass, Florida has 139,000 square kilometers, and Georgia's got about 69,000 square kilometers. So in all respects, Florida is twice as big and as Georgia, and in my opinion, is run a little bit better. Now, what do I think is going to happen to this guy when he goes to jail? He's going to self-report. That means he's going to walk up to the door and say, I'm here to start my sentence. They're going to let him know where to go. His biggest problem, I think, is going to be the 6 years probation, the supervised release. Because you get a lot of restrictions. And if they do it legit, he's not going to have a great time of it. Obviously, he's put a stain on law enforcement all over the country, in my opinion. When you violate civil rights, that's the one thing we all should pray and hope we have, is the civil rights, whether it's the First Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, Fourth Amendment, obviously Second Amendment with your gun rights, or Eighth Amendment, which is cruel and unusual punishment where this man violated. And that's why this man's going to jail, and as he should. Because if anybody should know what the Constitution is about, it should be law enforcement. Because they are the ones who uphold it, and or in this case, they violated it. So this sheriff's going to self-report to jail. He's going to be in a camp. He's going to get a bedroll. He's going to be assigned a bunk. In these camps, it's a joke. He's not going to, I don't think at all he's going to be under threat of violence. You never know. Don't get me wrong. Somebody could have a bad day. Could be an inmate that is what they call stepping down. Maybe he was a drug dealer, had 20 years, 30 years. Then when they get near the end, they might put him in a camp. I don't see this guy losing his life, to smash a cop that he has no care about. Now, I'll tell you what they do have in Georgia a lot of. There's approximately 17,000 gang members. That, to me, is where he run into trouble in prison. Because there's gangs in prison all over the place. Also, if he does something stupid and he gets transferred, the first place that man's going to go is United States Penitentiary, Atlanta, holdover. I was there numerous times. It is a cesspool. It is a rat-infested, dirty cesspool. And he will be in that, and he will be in a cell. And if they get a hold of him, the people in the penitentiary itself, or I think they even closed that now. They have inmates there, but not as many. They dropped the security level as well. Then I think he could be in trouble. But I don't think this man's going to have much problems. I don't like what he did. I am glad to see law enforcement being held accountable with a prison sentence. I just did a podcast yesterday I'm doing a podcast Monday about a person who was wrongly convicted, and then you'll hear about, it's not what happened, you'll hear about the case itself, and it's a heartbreaker, so make sure you check that out. That's this Monday on my podcast, The Real Deal with Larry Lawton. Anyway, people, just remember, no matter who you are, you can't violate the law. You can't violate the Constitution for sure. That's a federal offense, and you will be arrested by the federal authorities and be put in prison. So if you think you got a pass because you have a badge, you don't. And this is a really telltale sign of that. They didn't just get a police officer. They didn't just get even a police department lieutenant or major or somebody. They got the sheriff, an elected official. So there's twice I'm seeing that happen already, and I think that's a good sign. It keeps everybody in check. So with that said, I still think I'm not even judging the man. Hey, I believe in second chances no matter who you are. Yes, people can say, what do you mean, Larry? No, I believe in second chances. I am not going to say that one way or the other. I don't flip-flop just because he's a cop. I think what he did was horrendous because I know what that chair is. I'm not even sure I would live. I'm not sure I would live. But I believe in second chances, so the people who he did that to, I hope they find it to forgive him, or not just forgive him, get over it themselves, because hatred is what kills. And I hope that this man really reflects, and what worries me is his arrogance. And I hope he just gets a little bit of a hindsight. It has happened. The New York City Police Chief, Bernie Kerik, I think it was, he goes to jail, he comes out, now he's a prison reform person because of what he saw. I hope this happens as well. Anyway, people, have a good day. Make good choices, please. I don't want to see you go to jail. Live your life, have a good time, help somebody, and stay safe. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you Tuesday.